pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks everybody for being here. Just a couple quick changes to the agenda. 9C will be presented by Mr. Knutson. He will also take the consent agenda. And we'll take Parks and Rec off the committee reports on number 6. Is there any other changes?
No public works either. I thought it was supposed to have been tomorrow. Never mind.
Okay. If there's no other changes, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make the motion.
No, second.
We have a motion by Rick, second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. The agenda is approved. Guests and open forum, we'll start with Bruce Messel with the Sherburne County update. Welcome, thanks for coming here tonight.
Mayor, appreciate it very much, and I appreciate the time for everybody. I thought I'd just do a quick highlight of a few things, try to get around at least a little bit every year or so, but then answer any questions you have or things that you'd like additional information on as we go forward. And so these are just kind of a potpourri of topics I thought might be worth sharing with you all, so you had the information. The real impetus was to talk about North Star and the changes there, but of course that's already kind of old news. So I'll just give a quick overview highlight, and if you want some more information, I do have a slide deck, but didn't want to bore you with PowerPoint tonight. So as you know, North Star is officially done as of early January of 2026. There's a debate whether it'll be the last Vikings game or it'll be the last Vikings game before the playoff game. But as of now, at least, it's early January. The commuter service will end that Friday, and then the special event service will end either Saturday or Sunday. We were very concerned about the loss of ridership because about half of the riders on North Star currently come from Elk River and the Big Lake Station. So we really pressed hard on the Met Council as well as MnDOT, who now does rural transit, and we're considered rural for transit, about why they were basically abandoning half of their ridership. And through a long series of discussion, it had to deal with the length of time to get down to the cities via bus, but they are basically planning on a bus service to terminate in Ramsey. And we said, well, why don't you at least extend it up to Elk River? So through those discussions, we actually came up with an interesting pilot project. And that is going to be to run a bus starting in Big Lake 3 times in the morning, returning 3 times in the afternoon, go Big Lake, Elk River, directly to the Twin Cities. It's almost as fast as the train would be, and you don't have to do all those local stops all the way down. So that will give our commuting public here some opportunities. You can get on a bus here in Big Lake, you can get on a bus in Elk River, you can drive to Ramsey and get on a bus, or of course you can choose to drive by yourself. So MnDOT agreed to fund half of that, and we're going to fund the other half for a pilot project out of our local option sales tax, which is what we were using to pay for the bus from St. Cloud. Unfortunately, that bus will no longer run. The ridership numbers just aren't there, and to have somebody ride a bus from St. Cloud all the way down to Big Lake, get on another one and go in, it just isn't feasible. So we're going to try for 2 years. If the ridership doesn't hold or get better, then it'll go away. But given the investments that we've seen in the communities that had these stops, we felt we had to do something, at least to try it. The good news is the cost is about 10 cents on the dollar from what North Star was costing, so it's really in line with what normal bus service would be. And there's a very seamless transition so that immediately starting that Monday after the closure of North Star Rail, we will have the bus system up and running. So I'll stop and see if there's any questions you might have on the services.
What are you going to do with the trains?
The trains, that's a good question. I wish we owned them, but we don't. So MnDOT owns them. I think they will be absorbed by the Met Council, and they'll continue to use the trains on other lines. Probably just rewrap them. If we're successful with the pilot project, our goal is to get out of the business mostly, because we don't want to be one of the few counties paying for transit. But there is a cost that'll have to be figured out between the Met Council and MnDOT, because we're going to be using buses for 2 years. Eventually, because you have to have actually 3 buses, 5 with 3 lines, that will have to be purchased down the road. So If it's a viable bus route, somebody in the future will have to deal with the capital expenses. Right now, they're going to use the current places in North Star, but that may also change. Elk River, for instance, is thinking, well, maybe a downtown station might be better than the station out, as you know, by Home Depot there. So we'll see. It's an iterative project, but I'm glad at least that we're trying something. So that's will be coming. If you are interested, I do have a heat map of where the current ridership is located. So you can see the folks from here that are driving most likely to Big Lake and parking there. So
I
as a,
gotta believe that, but you're not running out of Big Lake, are you?
yeah, the bus will start in Big Lake
Oh, well.
and will run to Elk River, so 2 stops, and then directly down to Fifth and Marquette in Minneapolis. Yeah, so again, if that is of interest, I can just make the slide deck available, so.
So you said 10 cents on the dollar, so I think North Star, if I recall, was about $20 million a year roughly to operate, total cost. And
Yeah, I
then
didn't bring my numbers, but
So-
that might be right.
2 million roughly to
Yeah,
total to run the bus line.
since we're not running capital, it's actually much cost effective. Our cost is gonna be about $250,000 for the first year. A little bit of inflation the second year. So if you double that, you're, $500,000 range, yeah. Yeah. Okay, second thing, just a note, data centers, I think you're aware, but if you're not, the county board has made data centers a priority. We want the legislature to revisit what they did last year to effectively kill the data center market. And so we're gonna be working in concert with some other counties that are feeling the same way to see whether or not we can get the legislature to revisit it. The reality is there could be several iterations to that. I think the most viable might be to consider communities in transition, of which there are, I think, 9 counties and a couple more cities, and to have them be eligible for some sort of an exemption to allow them to continue to market, given that we put 10 years into our effort and saw it disappear basically overnight. Now, we know there's other issues with water and those type of things, but I think as long as we have a willing energy partner and we have land and we have infrastructure, and assuming the city has some interest still in putting something there, we don't think it's a bad idea. So if that's of interest, again, we're gonna start pursuing that and work on legislation. Obviously, we're working with Representative Meekland and Senator Matthews on that.
Are you forming a lobby group or what are you doing exactly?
Yeah, we've requested that the Association of Minnesota Counties take it on as a legislative position. We're also gonna work in our group called MICA, so Minnesota Intercounty Association. But if we do get it, our commissioner, Greg Felber, is now chair of the Energy Transition Advisory Committee. We are going to pursue it through that group as the lead agency and make it an ETAC. Very late in the legislature last year, there was a bone thrown out, which was, well, we'll exempt Becker if we can get all of the things we want. And both Shane and Andrew were quite suspicious of what that really was about. So I think we're gonna smoke that out and see what that meant. But if we do it with all energy community transitions, or those communities, it at least protects our interest a little better. So now there might be some other iterations, maybe replace the exemption for sales tax on energy with a energy consumption tax. And there's a little bit of interest in that because otherwise we will have a fiscal note that is gonna say the state's gonna lose money. Now, I debate that because how do you lose money if you're not gonna get anything built? But that's not the way they calculate it. So if we replace it with a consumption tax, the state could still be made whole, and there could potentially be an additional revenue stream, just like we share some of our other taxes with cities and counties that are host communities. So there should be some iterations, and I think we'll reach out to the league at some point, but right now it's county driven.
But the usage tax, isn't that gonna be just as bad?
Well, I think what we would argue is you get rid of the moratorium on the exemption on sales tax. You put that back in as an economic incentive and replace it with, let's just say, a 25% charge on the energy consumed. So it'd be similar to right now we have a solar power production tax. It would be very similar to that. So those data centers, right now, if they say they're gonna lose 100% of the exemption, would say theoretically they'll lose 25% of the exemption. So we still would be competitive, but there would be revenue brought in to make the state whole and compensate the communities. So that was some of the thinking going into that. Skeptical or worth exploring?
Yeah.
Well, you're still talking.
That's why we're vetting it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the amount that they lost just from the sales tax amount, I believe was about 160 million a year. So you're
170, yeah,
talking
yep.
40 million. That's not any one entity, that's divided up amongst all of them, but it's still $40 million a year. So if you're the state, you're going, yes. But if you're, if you're,
Right.
Google or Facebook or whoever, that's still millions. And that's,
Yeah, the way we looked at it is, is one of these hyper centers would eclipse that 170 million. I mean, they really shorted the state out of that future development. If you aren't watching, like in Fargo, Harwood just approved one, and we just saw the one go in Hermantown. The ones that are still going, I mean, they're going to be significant game changers. It's going to be the Sherco of the 1950s. It's just going to be in the 2020s. So,
just not in Minnesota, unfortunately.
well, and what's interesting is we have a second issue with that, and that is that the county board has taken a position that they would like to have the state remove the moratorium on nuclear energy, which might solve the concern over the data center, because a micro reactor, like we've had in our military ships for 70 years, or what are now considered small modular reactors, which are about the size of semi-trucks. These are fourth and fifth generation technologies that are available today that could easily be packaged with a data center and wouldn't be consuming energy that we're concerned about or that you're hearing. So there's a lot of interesting opportunities here. And of course, as you know, the very first commercially viable nuclear power reactor in the state of Minnesota was where?
Elk River.
Elk River, yes. And it was owned by a rural electric cooperative. So it's very interesting that we were, in fact, the energy county, and Elk River calls themselves the energy city for a reason. And being a neighbor to a power plant, we haven't had a lot of issues in 50 years. We really feel that the technology, if it's safe and reliable, might be something to revisit, especially if you're concerned about base power, and we know that wind and solar have some challenges. So I don't know where you fall on that, if you've discussed it, but I just want you to be aware the county board is really embracing that and have asked all 87 counties to join in that effort. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, it's on our executive session after tonight for discussion.
And if you need any more information, please let me know as well. We just reached out to all of the counties, and again, I haven't shared with the League of Minnesota Cities yet. Real quick, couple other things. Highway 10 and 11 is still going to be our priority road project. We obviously know your focus is here to the west. We'll just say ours is to the east. And so we'll be very keen on trying to line that project up, just like as we're starting on the overpass in Zimmerman. We hope in about 5 to 10 years we'll be starting on the overpass at County Road 11, which then will actually become Trunk Highway 25 business route is what it'll be. So the state is amenable to having us turn that back to them once we upgrade that. And so you'll have 25 going up into town in Big Lake, and then 25 business coming to where it is now. So make it better, safer for the traveling public. Probably cost that time $75 to $100 million. So you can imagine we're out in DC trying to see if we can line that funding up. Took us about 15 years for Zimmerman, so we expect the same timeline for that project. Last couple of items are budget. The good news, bad news is, like you, we face a lot of what are called unfunded or underfunded mandates. 1.5% or 1.4% of our levy increase is specifically pass-through requirements that we took on from the state. So we're at a 6.49% levy increase, or about 1.4% higher than we wanted to be. We think next year's going to be worse. The federal shifts in SNAP and Medicare will hit counties directly. And Minnesota has several new programs coming on board, including what's called the ACT, which is the Minnesota African American Family Preservation and Child Welfare Disproportionality Act. In other words, about 90% of our current clients will have to get affirmative intervention, which means I will be responsible for driving kids to school, picking them up, getting them to their doctor's appointments. We basically become the family for children that we intervene in. And the state is giving us this much money. So for us, we're looking at least $2 million, probably have to hire another dozen county employees. And that's all an unfunded mandate that we're facing. So very frustrating, because that's the reality. And then when the feds are added to that, you can see we're looking at a very, very tough couple of years to ramp up to these new mandated jobs that we have to do with no funding. Marijuana and tobacco, 3 years ago, I would tell you about enforcement of marijuana laws. Now I get to tell you how I regulate marijuana business. So the good news is, I guess, since you're in your own business, you get to handle yours. But in the rest of the county, absent Elk River and the city of Baldwin and St. Cloud, we manage the rest. We've only had one business come in for a license. We have another one kicking the tires right now on a location. But we haven't seen this onslaught of new businesses. However, the reason I raise it is, don't forget, and I hope that you guys are fully on board, is with the low potency hemp edibles. That now is going to get rolled into. So the businesses that are currently selling those hemp-derived products now fall under the same licensing and regulatory authority. So we're busy getting ready for our area that's going to take that on. I'm sure that Greg and your chief are probably looking at that as well. So that's a new, like, oh, here we go. And once again, broken record, the state said, you get to share in the revenue from these things. Then the state said, sorry, you get nothing. So we're getting none of the revenue from these new businesses and all of the obligations. So quite a challenge. On the heels of that, we are looking at the tobacco ordinance. We have not updated our ordinance for several years. It would need to do so. The reason I flag it, however, is not necessarily traditional tobacco products. We're very, very concerned about what's happening with e-cigs and with vaping. We're seeing them show up in middle schools, elementary schools, let alone high schools. And what's in those products is absolutely scary. So if you're at all involved with substance abuse prevention or the SUP coalition, you know exactly what we're referring to. So we're looking at tightening the regulations around access to those types of products, not the traditional tobacco products. So that will be rolling out. We expect we'll have a full house in November because the tobacco industry has decided that any change is bad. Even though it's pretty clear those particular products are specifically targeted, just like cigarettes were for a while, at kids. You know, when you look at the flavored vapes and how they're done, we know where they're going for the future market. And then last but not least, I just want to let you know the county board is super supportive of efforts with the post office, and want to know anything we can do to help with that effort. We're there to do so. We discussed it today. We thank you for the ability to put a letter in to weigh in on behalf of both cities with the challenges of making sure we keep postal services here. And the county board wanted me to make sure you knew that from this morning's discussion. So with that, Mayor, I'll stand for any questions you have or comments or anything I can take back and work on your behalf.
I asked my questions.
Well, thanks for the help on the post office. We need all the help we can get.
Yep. Yeah, no, we definitely feel that. And you've got actually it's ironic, you have two very strong advocates on the county board. One being obviously Greg, but the other one is Rayanne. She's a very, very local, strong local advocate, and she understands the power of having a post office for your businesses and your access for everybody. So they were really tight on it today. So
Great, thank you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Guys, have a great night.
Thanks for coming. Is there anybody else that wants to address council tonight? All right, we'll move on then to number 6 on the agenda, committee reports, presentations, and awards. And we'll start with Becky and the police committee.
We met on October 10th. We talked a couple things, which one we will actually see on our exec session tonight about the sergeant position we've kind of been talking about and just the calendar and all that we'll see later. We also had an update on our full-time position. He has accepted, he's very excited, but he's just in the background phase right now, so can't, legit put him on the schedule yet, but everything's gonna go good there. We talked about some contract discussions with Axon body cam replacements. The calls, they've been very steady, so that's good and bad. And just always look at social media for the fun fall events that are coming up. We have the donut drive-through coming up on the 13th. And then I know Chief is going to put together something probably in December for like coffee with the chief. So kind of look for that. And that's about all we did. And we'll also be talking about the squad purchase, which is under 9A today under the reports.
All right, any questions for Becky? You're up again for personnel.
Personnel met same day. Very similar. We talked about the sergeant update, which again, we will talk in the exec session. And we just we're just updated again with the new Minnesota paid leave and just kind of where we're at, because that needs to be done by January, obviously, and that's about it.
Great. Any questions for Becky on personnel? Move on to Robin with EDA.
EDA met a week ago yesterday. We talked about the housing RFP that is being reworked and it'll go to planning before it comes back to EDA. We had an update on a small parcel in the industrial park that is on our consent, or our exec session tonight. And that was about all we had.
All right. Any questions for EDA? Then we'll move to Rick with the Fire Board.
Fire Board, we met last night. We discussed Red Path a little more. As you know, we've been having issues with them ongoing, not just a one-time thing, but very much an ongoing, we'll call them quality issues. There was a meeting with them a little less than a month ago. Let's see. And you know, when you get a vendor like, you know, that's maybe not performing as well, you're looking for, you know, them really to step up at that point and say, you know, hey, you know, not only do we own it, but here we're gonna, you know, we want to earn your business, and that didn't happen, I guess. So it was kind of call it the Hail Mary. It was kind of the last shot. So they are still our vendor today, but we are gonna start meeting with, or some of us are gonna start meeting with other potential vendors to replace them, and we'll see where that goes. So we also talked about paid leave, as everybody hopefully is talking about that if they're not already, and fire departments are not exempt on that. So we kind of talked about how that would affect us. It's not going to be as much of an effect at the fire department as it would be in other areas, but just kind of what are the things we have to do, and you know, dates for that, things like that, postings that have to be made. Fund balance policy, that was brought up a few months ago, and we looked at we had a draft last night that we just basically approved with some changes. And so is that coming back one more time, or was that?
No, that was approved.
Okay, that was what the changes said. So basically the nuts and bolts of it would be the 50% is the number that we'll start with. So you know, as most government entities, we, you know, only take in revenue basically twice a year. So important to, just like here at the city, important for us to, you know, have money to go those 5-6 months until money comes in. So it's good to finally have a policy there. It also addresses what to do with overages and shortages as well, very similar to ours. We used ours as one of the models when we were looking through it. So the grass rig that we've been talking about for quite a while, that I believe they were going to pick up the chassis today. So that would be I think it was a Ford F-550, and then from there you deck it all out with all the fire equipment. So the chassis would be, you know, minus the fire equipment, so the base pickup. So they were going to pick that up today, and then we did authorize after. It's taken a while here, but when that comes in, that is gonna be slightly under budget. I know there was a lot of back and forth discussion on that, and so, working through vendors now, we, thinking possibly within the next, you know, by the first of the year even, but maybe shortly after, it'll be back with everything on it, ready to go, so. That one's been a long time coming.
That one's been a while.
Yes, so, we're getting there. That was that's all I got.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions for Rick with the Fire Board? All right, we'll move on to public hearings, certification of delinquent utility charges and weed grass removal charges. Mr. Evansteiner.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I'm here for the public hearing. If you wanted to open it on the front end.
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll open the public hearing at 5:24.
All right, give you a little bit of background. So we did call for the public hearing on October 7th. The city, for utility charges, the city's allowed to certify delinquent water and sewer charges. So we look at it as amounts over 60 days past due and owing over $50. We mailed out notices October 8th. So we did send out 82 notices. I think we sent out a total like 89, some were to a owner tenant, but we had 82 properties for a total of $25,833. As of today, I did an update. We have 61 remaining properties for $22,385. So we'll take payment through November 21st at 4:30. So right around 30 days to take payments. So staff have been answering questions and working with residents as they call in to pay. Exhibit A is attached. That includes all of the properties that were outstanding as of the date of this memo. We'll continue to cross off as those payments come in, and then we'll send the final listing to the county in late November. With that, we also have the weed and grass. Here, I think we had initially like 19 properties. All of those have been paid other than one. So Exhibit B will have one property on there and also take payment through November 21st. And that was for work completed early June by staff. Initially, there was invoices mailed out. When those weren't paid, then we mailed out subsequent invoices related to the assessment. And that's about it, all I have for the update. So with that.
Okay. So the public hearing is open. Is there anybody here that would like to address council regarding the weed and grass or delinquent utility charges? Appears not. So we'd entertain a motion and second to close the public hearing.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
One second.
We have a motion by Mike, second by Rick to close the public hearing at 5:27. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. So that closes the public hearing. And now we have a couple resolutions.
You bet, yep, would ask for a resolution 2575 to certify delinquent utilities and 2576 certifying delinquent weed and grass.
All right, so we're looking for a resolution 2575, which certifies the delinquent utilities to the tax rolls. Do we have a motion for that?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Becky, a second by Mike. Is there any further discussion?
Just add a comment like we always do. Our staff are really willing to work with folks, so if somebody's, if somebody's in a position where they, you need to reach out and set up a payment plan or whatever, staff are really willing to do that, but you gotta call. So please, if you're in that spot, please call.
Yeah. Very good. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. And that carries. Then we're looking at resolution 2576, which certifies the weed and grass removal charges to the tax rolls. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mike, a second by Robin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. And that motion carries.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, now we're on to number 8, board committee and consultant reports, pond lining project on the hole number 4 pond. Mr. Kua.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to discuss Resolution 2580 for potential pond liner on the championship course at Pebble Creek. As you likely recall, during our capital improvement planning, we had discussed the prioritization of lining some of the water features on our course. This particular one is a hole 4 of the championship course, so it's a par 3 on our front 9. As we discussed and as we've talked with internally, and I stand up here also on behalf of our course superintendent, Jason Scharfenkamp, who wasn't able to make it tonight, but we actively maintain the water for the aesthetics features of that particular pond, where we're flowing water to maintain that water level at a really high rate. And we're experiencing a lot of water loss from it. So it just is trying to be a good steward of our environment and also minimize the wear and tear on our irrigation infrastructure, our wells and our pumps. We can take a high burden off of that equipment by lining with a PVC liner that particular pond. And it's got a lot of merits to it, so I just want to talk a little bit about that project. We are looking at opportunities to kind of coordinate with our streets team and other capital planning regarding some road improvement projects on Edgewood Drive as well as 23. There's going to be a need, if those projects move forward as soon as next year, to take on more stormwater. And this actually location is mutually beneficial because it would benefit Pebble Creek in the way of maintaining our aesthetic pond features, and also be the most cost-effective way to have that water captured within the street system. So it's something that we had planned for 26. I stand before you tonight because we're looking at the opportunity with the course closure, which hopefully isn't imminent, and we're going to get some nice warm days ahead of us, but the opportunity to do some winter work. Potentially later this fall, should this be approved. We really want to be careful about disrupting any of our revenue, the impact on the player experience. You know, a project like this does have an impact around the surrounding holes, and this particular one being a par 3, there really isn't an opportunity to do a temporary green. So wanted to talk with you tonight about the opportunity to maybe move forward yet this fall on this project when it won't be as impactful. We've had good conversations with golf committee as well as our internal finance team and streets on the merits of this project. It's something we feel really good about, but wanted to have a discussion with you folks and see if you had any questions. As to you've probably seen it as you're driving up 23 on hole 10 pond. We have stopped actively filling the ponds for over a month now, and you can really see how much water loss there is just naturally. So we'd be taking this LPDE liner. It's a 30 mil. Mike, I know you had a question at golf committee regarding, is that the proper weight for the liner? In all of our research and talking, that is really the appropriate one. We've got liners in other ponds on the course property that were installed in 87, 88 that are still really effective. In addition to the donated liner that we had 4 or 5 years ago from Northern Metals, which our staff put in on hole 14. And that one was a little bit roughed up because it had been laid out, bundled up, and then transported. But it's done an amazing job in holding the water. We don't have to actively maintain that water level at all. So moving forward on this would have a benefit, obviously, to the potential streets project, to the aesthetics of our course, minimizing the wear and tear on our pump infrastructure, and really set us forward for 30, 40 years to go ahead of us for that. So wanted to see if you guys have any questions regarding Resolution 2580. At the end, looking for a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. This would be funded out of our CIP. We're just asking for the funding a little bit early to minimize that potential impact on playability and the guest experience. But with that said, I'd open it up for any questions.
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to add that this particular pond has been a headache since day one. And this should take care of the problem completely for many, many years. And we've spent money putting clay liners in and everything. And this should have been done in the first place, but how do you know? You know. And the committee was in favor of starting the project earlier than, so that we could get it done for next spring.
Sure. So when you talk about the street project in 26 with Edgewood there, so we're going to be capturing stormwater and putting it into multiple ponds, I'm assuming?
Yes, yep. We've budgeted $185,000 for this pond lining process, including hole 10. We didn't want to take on hole 10. It's the closest proximity to where that water would be coming into the system because we're still running engineering with SEH to determine what those flow levels would be in different rain events. 4 is a very safe place to start because it's down the line a little bit. And I should have mentioned earlier too, in the quotes, we received the 3 quotes. We do have potential savings that we're looking at with our Public Works department as well. If you look through the bids, you have kind of the liner work, and then what they do is they dredge out some organic material, pull all the water out of the pond. So we would actively, pump out all the water, dredge out, lay the liner down, and then put material back on. So what you've seen in those quotes, anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 of, depending on the bidder, to put the material back on. It's something that we've talked internally that we believe our staff has the ability to do that. So we're asking for the full amount, just not knowing exactly if we're going to go that way, but it's certainly our intention to lower our expense on that if there's opportunity where our staff can do that last step of the project.
If we do the installation, does that affect the warranty at all with what they're doing with the liner?
It wouldn't, because we wouldn't actually do the installation. It would just be as you dredge out the organic, we'd set it to the side, lay it on, and then put that back on top to kind of weight down the liner. It'd just be that last step that we'd be looking at doing in-house.
All right, any other questions for Josh? If not, would someone like to make a motion for Resolution 2580, a resolution approving staff to contract DW companies to install pond liner on Pebble Creek, hole number 4?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Robin, second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion's carried. Good luck on your project.
Thank you.
And now we are on to administrator and staff reports. Chief Lindblom has a police department squad car purchase request.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As is pretty customary for me now to appear in October, the squad car for 2026 is due for an order. In years past, starting about 4 years ago, we started placing the order around this time because the lead times were extending out. Not nearly as much as a fire truck apparently, but it does take a little bit of time to, we're averaging 6 to 7 months to receive the vehicle, and then that gets put on the list to get upfitted as well. So over the past few years, we've started making this order in October, and usually we receive the squad car right around May, June, and then get put in line for upfitting. So with that being said, 921 is the 2021 Explorer that we have currently that's due for replacement. It has 115,000 miles, and based on our current driving trends, we'll be at about at least 130,000 when the new car's in, which is very, very high for our squads. We don't usually get that high. Typically, right about 100,000 is where they're at when we start to get rid of them. So the hope is that we won't incur a whole lot of nickel and diming that between now and arrival time, but you never know. So that being said, we did receive the current spec sheet for the squad car for 2026 model year. After filling out the spec sheet, which was attached to your council packet, it's identical to our squad cars that we got in 2024 and 2025. Came out to $45,873.44. Did want to make an important note that is $36 less than last year. So I thought that was a big win. So
More donuts.
make sure I put that in here. So that does not ever happen. So that worked out pretty well. We do have $65,000 designated in our CIP for that squad. That is, of course, including everything that we would need to do to it, computers, equipment, and the upfitting, graphics, everything like that. But this would get us in the position to be ready to set that squad up come about mid-year next year. That being said, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the purchase of our 2026 squad car, which would be, identified in Resolution 2578.
Are they still predicting as much time to get it as what it has been during COVID?
Yeah, well, so it's been that since COVID, yes. I did ask the upfitters the other day if they're hearing whether or not these are still pushed out, and he said that they're about 6 months. So that's kind of about where we've been at the last few, so. But the good thing is that we, like I said, we can get in, and then I actually contacted our upfitter the other day. I was actually up there for something else. Had the conversation with them about this order, and they said that if I call them, if it's approved and I call them up, they will actually kind of assume when we're gonna receive the car and put us on the schedule now. So there's a small chance, we typically in the past, like 4 years ago, like to have our new car lead the parade at Freedom Days, and we were always able to do that, but we haven't been able to do that for a few years just because it gets there after June. So there's a slight chance we could get the new car out and have it available there. So.
We should maybe make a note, you know, I remember when I first came on council and you'd hear 100,000 miles, you're like, what, we're getting rid of a car already? That's
Yeah.
like just broke in, but
They're hard miles.
yes,
Yeah.
you think of what a cop car does on a typical day. It sits, and when it goes 0 to whatever very fast. I mean, everything you do is.
100,000 miles in town.
Yeah, once
would-
they hit 100, we do start to see a lot more of the maintenance visits. This squad has been pretty good to us, so we're hoping that we can kind of skate through these last 6 months, and then we'll be ready to go.
I would never buy a squad car at an auction, no matter.
Yeah,
what.
no,
neither.
I've seen how they're. Yeah, I will say this though, they are maintained well. So they are driven hard, but we keep them maintained
Yours
very
are,
well.
but
So
not every place does, I'm sure.
yeah, no, here, I mean, if something's broke, we fix it. If it needs oil changes, we're right on schedule, tires, all that fun jazz, so.
All right, any other questions about the squad car purchase? If not, we would entertain a motion for Resolution 2578, approving the purchase of the 2026 police squad car and allowing chief to enter into the agreement with 1040 Ford for the purchase.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mike, a second by Becky. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please state no. Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is an encroachment agreement for LTTM Properties LLC. And is it Louise Alenick? Close enough. My apologies.
I believe you said it correctly, actually.
Oh, all right.
At least that was my understanding. But thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, what we have is an encroachment agreement and waiver of liability for LTTM Properties LLC and Louise Einig. This is on the Von Hansen site, and this is a step toward the final result of the parcels becoming one, enclosed by a new addition. And so these properties are 12912 and 12911 First Street Southeast. And so the purpose of this is to allow grading and installation of a retaining wall before winter as part of the overall plan for Von Hansen Snacks to do a 2025 building addition that may go into 2026 as the actual start date. But the proposed expansion that they're looking to do would cross the current property lines, so they couldn't meet setbacks and they'd have a lot of land use issues there. And so these parcels are actually going to be under one ownership group in the next coming months, which will be LTTM Properties or Von Hansen's. So that's the intent there. The addition would be for warehouse space for them to basically produce more snacks and have more snack equipment in there. And the next steps for this, following this application, is to do a lot combination and vacation of the interior easements that are on the property that you can see in the Exhibit A attached. The city engineer did do a review. He had no concerns that were noted. And so with that, staff would recommend approval of the encroachment agreement and waiver of liability. And we'd be looking for a motion in a second, adopting Resolution 2579, authorizing that agreement.
All right, any questions for Austin?
So you mentioned these two parcels are gonna come under one ownership. Are they gonna get combined into one parcel then?
Correct. Yep. So the issue that they're having is Luis currently owns it, and they had some sort of agreement for payment, and they were looking for tax reasons to wait until 2026. And then at that time, they'll own the whole thing.
But they wanna do some of this work now before that
Correct.
happens.
Before winter conditions, and that's why they want the retaining wall there specifically. But we did tell them they can't do anything related to the building because of the setbacks, and they don't actually own it. So we can't permit them to build there because they don't own it.
Okay. But this will allow them to make more pretzels and more quickly
Yes,
than if we didn't do this.
at a much faster rate, hopefully.
That's a win-win. All right, any other questions for Austin? If not, we would entertain a motion for Resolution 2579, authorizing an encroachment agreement and waiver of liability for the Von Hansens project.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Robin, second by Rick. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carries. Thank you, Austin. All right, 9C, agreement with State of Minnesota for federal construction projects. Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city became a municipal state aid city in 2024, and as a result, the city receives funding for streets dedicated as municipal state aid streets. In addition, the city also works directly with the state for projects where federal funding is involved. In July of this year, you guys passed a resolution for the planning work at the intersections of Highway 10 and 25. And this is similar to that. This agreement is required, it's a required standing agreement between the state, all state aid cities and the state for future projects that receive federal funding. So our city attorney did review this. It's pretty standard boilerplate agreement, just something that we need in place as we proceed with this project, should any federal funds become available, and for us to work with the state on the funding for the project. So with that, there is a full detail of the contract. Like I said, legal did review it, but if you have any questions, I can attempt to answer those as well.
All right, any questions for Phil on this agreement? Just the hoop we have to jump through if we're gonna spend federal money.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, we'd be looking for a motion on Resolution 2577, approving the agreement between the city and the state for federal road funds.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Rick, a second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think you're up for the consent agenda.
Yes, first pass at a consent agenda. In front of you tonight, there's a revised consent agenda, including the hiring and termination report as revised, payment of the bills, council meeting minutes, acceptance of updated city-town shared road agreement, tobacco compliance checks, revised resolution 2573, and donation acceptance under resolution 2581. And I can stand for any questions should you have them.
All right, any questions for Phil on the consent agenda?
Do you wanna just say who the donations are?
Yeah,
So they get
well,
recognition,
absolutely.
Do you want me to call those out?
if you would. Yeah.
Sure,
Sure.
thanks.
They're all three from the Becker Lions, $5,000 for Snuffy's Landing, primarily to be used for additional railing on the staircase that's out there. $2,500 for Cobinger Park, for a new flagpole and light that will be erected hopefully yet this week. And to the community center for their Halloween carnival, $1,000. Again, all three of those are from the Becker Lions. So as we mentioned the last few meetings, the Lions have been a great partner for the city, and they continue to do so. So, yeah.
All right, thank you to the Lions, and it looks like we had really good tobacco compliance results as well. Everybody passed.
Yes.
I think Rick mentioned last meeting, that doesn't always happen, so awesome job to our businesses. Any other questions for Phil on the consent agenda? If not, we'd entertain a motion to approve that consent agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mike, a second by Robin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please state no. Consent agenda is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do have a couple quick announcements. Saturday at 3:30, we're gonna be doing a plaque dedication at the Frank Cobinger Jr. Veterans Memorial Park. think I got the whole thing in there. So the public's invited, the family will be there. They're gonna see the plaque unveiled. That just tells a story about Frank, that is my uncle. He had a pretty unique experience in World War II of storming the beaches at Normandy, being injured, severely injured, presumed dead, and his would-be my grandma was notified that he was presumed dead and she was planning his memorial service, but then he woke up 6 weeks later in the hospital in Great Britain. And went on to work at Colbinger Mercantile and was actually our postmaster in town. So, talk about the post office, throw that in there. So Saturday at 3:30, love to have you come out to Colbinger Park and see that. We have open houses coming up for the City Hall Police Department, October 23rd from noon to 4, October 24th from 8 to noon, and then October 28th, next week from 4 to 6. There'll be tours on the hour. The city calendar will be available for pickup, and I'm told there will be treats.
Ooh.
So everybody's welcome to attend those. Reminder, Thursday night at 5 at the TLC at the high school is the local government roundtable. So anybody that, we set that date at the previous one. And I think a reminder was sent, and I'm not 100% sure. If not, I apologize about that.
I'm glad you mentioned it because I was planning on being gone.
Okay.
But I'll be here.
Well, whatever works for people.
No, I'll be here.
Okay.
I'll just.
And a little post office update, because it just wouldn't be right to not have one. The construction crew was in town yesterday and met with Phil. And even though we were told we should not pour concrete, they lamented the fact that we hadn't. But the CBUs should go up tomorrow. So that is gonna happen. I was at the post office today. They're planning to put the new keys in people's PO boxes. I did pass out, the post office promised to keep us updated and they lied. They did not. But on their website, I found the press release from October 14th that announced the closure starting Saturday, October 25th. But people will have the opportunity to still get their mail at the community center. There are some larger parcel boxes there as well. So if people do get a larger, depending on the size of the box, you might be able to pick that up. And yeah, they should be installed, we think, maybe as soon as tomorrow.
End of day Friday for sure.
Yep, by end of day Friday for sure. So that appears to be happening, so that's good. No new news on anything permanent, but I did read today that I believe once a temporary closure happens, they only have 90 days to decide what their plan is. That doesn't mean enter into an agreement, but it means if they're gonna try to permanently close our post office, they would have to notify us within 90 days. Saturday, I'm, after the dedication to Frank, I am kicking off a campaign to save our post office, so you can look for details on social media. Fully admit I'm trolling them this week with pictures of other post offices from around the state, including some towns as small as less than 50 residents who still have a post office. So I think if we are 100 times bigger, we deserve a post office. That's my thought.
So, Mark, do people only have this week to pick up their new key?
So I asked that question today. Even though they're ceasing operations, the employees here said they will try to be around next week to still have the post, the mail won't be there, but if someone needs to pick up a key and turn in their old key, they're gonna try to accommodate that the best they can. So, the keys weren't ready yet today. They won't be ready until the CBUs come, which might not happen till Friday. So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely visit your PO box if you have one as often as you can. and, to try to get the new key. I'm not exactly sure how this timeline works,
Crunch time, yeah.
but it's definitely
I
crunch
gotta
time.
believe it's a new thing.
Yeah, I don't think this is happening in a lot of places. You're right, Mike. But if you read the letter I passed out, that they wrote back to the senators, this is an emergency closure because they only had 40 months of notification.
Oh, wow.
So this is an exigent incident in their minds, so. I asked Grant, he provided a copy of the letter that he sent to them in June of 2022. So, that's what we know, but hey, first steps first, we're gonna have CBUs here and then we'll work on having people lobbying the post office and our federal partners starting Saturday. Any other questions on that? I do wanna do a shout out to Phil, who went on site with the delivery people and public works staff who are being super flexible and doing everything they can to help this happen, and the community center for hosting, so. All right. Anybody else have any announcements? If not, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Right. We have a motion by Rick, second by Robin. All in favor of adjourning, please state aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, state no. Meeting's adjourned at 5:55. Take a couple minute recess and then we will kick off our executive session.
The smaller door.
Not by the gym.
It's where the
Oh,
school board meets.
by the administration office?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on this side,
Facing us and the 23 side.
yeah. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, it's just just a single door, isn't it?
Yes. Well, it's
Or
like,
is it a double door?
but it's little.
It's smaller than the main entrance, so.
So if you're driving in, is on your right, is that first
No,
door?
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've gone in that
first
one.
door right on your right. Before the main big
No,
doors.
but if it'd be to the right, and that's where the administration office is there, and then it'd be just to the right of that.
Yes, just to the right of it. So that you got the gym or the pad, and as you go to the right, you have the district.
Oh, okay.
Used to be with the black and the orange, like tile.
Okay, if somebody could stand outside and wave
That's at 5 o'clock Thursday.
Okay. I will not be there.
Football game.
Last time we were done in less than 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, but we broke up and had little groups, which we might or might not do this time.
Lovely, how are you?
Great.
Yep, let's do this.
Ask you a few questions.
These are my favorite. You think Heather would change them? Hold on. 7.
What is your official title?
I come down today, when I was down, entered the orange, and my wife's going, I was thinking, like the rest of the room quick. The door was somewhat open. There's a gal.
Oh my gosh.
It's a big baseball. And I'm like, up here. It was so hard.
That's why I was grabbing.
So you can put that, so we've been reviewing this for quite a while. It'll benefit us in the long run.
This like secondhand, whatever. Yeah. Yes. I heard he's. So when I was
Space is especially important to their parents. Mom and dad care a lot.
How is it just in the book of it?
Thank you, Becky.
Look at how long-winded this one is. Let's do this.
So my question was, how bored were you?
This was kind of a boring one.
Was it boring for you guys?
You heard the ball, you heard the ball board, so you
That's
worked up a little bit.
okay, I can
You worked up a little
appreciate
bit,
that.
like, what are they gonna do?
Good night, guys.
I just told Heather she needs to start balancing. Same questions for the last 7 years. Because it was so cute, because Gus is like, I'm looking for it, I go, I became interested, because I've always been addicted to find the right questions, I'm like, I remember them.
Would they ask you the same questions?
All the time, that's what I'm telling Heather, I'm like, we're gonna need some new questions. Like, what's your favorite color?
Thursday's the only day of the week I don't have anything.
What day is?
Thursday, when we're gonna be.
I'll be at work, so I will not be there.
Did you invite the community center, manager? Well, there was, what's her name, Brandy. She was there at the last one. Yeah, and it was kind of tough for her because she was brand new and she didn't have a lot of experience with what's going on yet, but she handled herself pretty good, I thought, considering.
Let's get some popcorn. You think you want to somehow just label each one with different numbers, so like put the same number of actually popcorn and just double it out while you. The mayor's gonna have a copy of the and just get your mail, everybody come inside. Yeah, there you go. And now we'll do a mail sort. Okay. Sorry, I got you.
How come I didn't get an email on that?
I don't think any of us did.
Right,
Oh.
right.
So in other words, I don't have to come?
You don't have to. That's my mistake.
No, I was there for the first one, so. Want to be there for this one too.
Alright, we should get going, because we have budget.
Hey, Bill, you responded yes for Thursday. Could you make sure Brandy's invited? I don't know if something was moved up on here. I'll check it. I don't know if there's anybody else who was supposed to be. Chris, were you invited?
I'm there.
Oh, sorry, there's two of us, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Well, weren't you at the first one?
I wasn't at the first one.
Yeah, you were gonna.
I might have been a fill-in.
So
One guy couldn't make it, so.
Oh.
usually kind of leave it up to Greg which staff you think should come, because I don't want to dictate that, but.
We'll touch base with you in the morning.
Okay,
And
perfect.
then make sure that everybody's.
Well, one of the big issues was Park and Rec, and that's why I'd like to see Brandy there.
Yeah. All right, we will call the executive session to order at 6:03 PM. First item of business is the sergeant position follow-up with Chief Lindblom.
Your mic's off.
All right, back. Mayor and council, I know that this has kind of been a really long ongoing process, and I think we've kind of reached the end of the road for kind of the information I can try to provide for you. First and foremost, just a really quick high-level overview. As you know, two areas that I identified when I started here for staffing shortcomings included our investigators, patrol investigator position, and then a sergeant position again. So we have some supervision from our night shift officers who right now are effectively working unsupervised for every single shift. As part of that, the supervision portion is answering questions, being on scene with the officers at the time, being able to answer any policy procedure questions, or just kind of provide that oversight for those types of calls for service. Additionally, this role can be identified as a second in charge. Should I have to be gone, next week's a good example. I'm gone Monday through Friday at a leadership training. There's nobody here in the city of Becker that can answer those questions without it being me as well. And performance evaluations of our employees is important. We want to make sure that our employees are performing well. Right now, it involved me trying to watch body worn camera footage from calls for service because I don't see these people at all when they're working. So there's been a lot of discussion about several of the different factors that I thought were important for having this role with the Becker Police Department. The last time we spoke at executive session, we had kind of identified an area that you wanted more information on, which was the optics of having 3 squad cars on at night, and the discussion of the numbers don't support it, and what that looks like. So, in an effort to try to answer that question, I put together a memo to you, which you all have a copy of, but effectively I took our current schedule that we have right now. I went back to January 1. I created a 10-hour shift for a sergeant that would go into the evening like we had previously discussed, that 6 to 4 time frame, so we'd be gaining a little bit more coverage on the back end as well, and matched it up with our current schedule to say, hey, how often are we looking at having 3 cars on in the overnight hours, which is our 6 to 6 technically. Overnight is our 6 to 6 is our overnight shift. What would we really be looking at? So the memo that I had sent out to you included with the packet basically identifies the overall, which is 6 to 6. There's 3,276 hours, and this is January 1 to the end of September. The number of hours with 3 cars working the streets of Becker was 26% of the time. I then further broke it down by month because it will vary a little bit. That's obviously based on time off that other officers have, trainings and things like that. And it kind of ebbs and flows. We have as low as February would be 13% of the time that we had 3 cars working in the overnight hours. Up to the max is 40% of the time in June. Our summer month there, we would have more 3 officers on at a time. So the important part about that, I think, is also understanding that when I ran that was ran with the sergeant working every single shift that they were assigned. So no sick days, no vacation days, no time off for training, no flexes for court appearances, any of that. So I do anticipate that, we include that time off portion. It's gonna be probably closer to 20%. We do also have night shift officers that are very cognizant of the difficulties of backfilling that role, and I will have them frequently tell me, yeah, I wanted to take off this night, but I knew that, our power was off and it would be too hard to get part-time, so I didn't even ask. So I think that having somebody in that role too might let them feel more comfortable asking for that time off. I don't ever expect that from them, but I've got a couple guys that are very good about that. They're like, hey, I looked at the schedule, saw it was gonna be tight, and didn't want to make you stress about trying to find part-time or make something work for coverage. So additionally, I just wanted to note that wasn't in the memo was that during that same time frame, I had 6 denied time off requests for night shift as well, where guys were trying to get time off for whatever it was that I had to deny just because we weren't able to facilitate that with any of our part-timers and didn't have the sufficient road coverage. So my hope is that what I sent out here is, answering that question. We kind of had at least that the last executive session was, what does this look like? And I feel like the numbers, kind of lay it out there. How often is our community gonna see 3 cars working at any given time in Becker? Averages out to about 26% max, the maximum number, so. Does anybody have any questions related to, I guess, what I had sent out here? Or comments about, whether or not I hit what we were looking for questions and concerns, I guess, at least at the last executive session?
Just a comment, thank you, very much for putting this together. I know like with your predecessor, many times we would, say push back and, he would present us with a lot of data like this, and so, this was kind of your first, time to do that, but, obviously being one of the, people who expressed reservation, at the previous meeting and maybe in other discussions, I would, in my head, I assumed this number was probably in the 60 to 80%. And seeing it at that, 26%, and I'm not even worried as much about the optics of it, but just, it was just if we were all of a sudden adding if it really amounted to adding a third person 80% of the time, I guess that's where I was like, okay, we haven't really bumped our call log, but yet now but I mean, when we look at, so I was more of that, of just adding that third person than it was, say, adding, I was always in agreement that we needed a sergeant position, that was important, so, having, seen this and, spoke with you, of course, last week, and then, with this, I'm good with this, so thank you for providing that information, so.
It was actually beneficial for me too, because I talk about these things, it's something that I want, right? But I didn't know the answer prior to the question at last executive either, like, what would that really look at? So, it was a nice endeavor diving into my schedule for the last 6 or 8 months, and I feel like I was a little bit surprised actually by the number 2 and where it came out. I thought it'd be a little bit higher as well, so.
Other questions for the chief?
So that being said, so in an effort to try to kind of move forward and plan, in my conversations with Greg about the executive session tonight, just looking kind of for an overall opinion maybe from the council as far as moving forward. I know that at budget planning time, we did keep that budget item in there for starting mid-year for a sergeant position. Obviously, we've got a good amount of time to prep, which will be nice, because we'll have to take a look at, how we want to move forward with the application process, what our requirements are, and things like that. But in an effort to try to kind of plan for that, would like to try to get a overall yay or nay on how we feel about moving forward with the sergeant role for next year.
I'm for it.
I'm supportive.
I got no problem with it.
Yeah, my only question would be, is this the best model? We operated under an old model, and I was one that said I was not supportive of a lieutenant position. So is this the proper hours to be working and those types of things? And I'm assuming you've looked at those types of things.
Yeah, I think, so the hours specifically came from a lot of the internal discussion that we had with police committee administration, kind of where do we want to see some of that extra time for coverage hours, so that's kind of where a lot of that came in. The 10 hours came into play because it's really hard finding a 12-hour shift schedule that would allow us to cross over both sides of our schedule. And then I do think that the sergeant 100% is a better option for our department than lieutenant position. To be out on the road in those evening hours, which even when I was lieutenant, it started out kind of that way, but there's just too many administrative things, and pretty soon you're going to meetings all 3 times a week, and you don't get out at night. So the key here is really to have somebody available in some of those evening hours to be a go-to for our guys that are working those night hours. So I do feel that is the best option for us.
All right.
Okay, well, I appreciate you bearing with me for the last few months, and the dialogue that we've had, and pushing me to get that information to you for whatever you needed, so appreciate that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, Jacob, industrial property purchase.
Thank you, Mayor.
So if you recall, we had, it would have been, so Jim Hughesby owns the property on Sherburne Avenue and Liberty Lane across from Todd Potter to the north. It's a lot that has a little retention pond on it, if you recall. And it wasn't part of the Furniture Mart acquisition and all of that stuff. Initially, there was a party that was interested in that. They decided not to proceed with buying the property. And in talking with Mr. Hughesby, so Jim who owns that, he was trying to figure out the best option to, what do I do with it? Is that something that the city would be interested in? And the pricing is pretty good. He was willing to go pretty low on the price for the city, and we talked about it administratively and threw out a number to Jim and said, this is, from a staffing standpoint, we'd have to get council approval, but it, you know, what about 45,000? So this is a 1.41 acre lot. The, if you recall the appraisal that we had completed not too long ago for Potter's lot, it was $1.54 a square foot. So appraised, the assessed value on the property, I think, is around 86,000, and appraised would have been 94,000. So this is well under what our appraised value would be for a served property. And even if it was unserved, was $1.34. So regardless of whether it was served, unserved, this is much lower than what our appraisals came in. The intent would be, if we acquire the property as the city, we would pass, we wouldn't charge more for the property. It would just be, we spent 45, whoever purchased that as we market it, we would give it to them for 45. That would be the recommendation from staff side. But we do get questions that we know that it would fit a multiple thousand square foot building on there because there was a lot of work done by the interested party. You could expand some of that with parking, so it would be a viable site for a smaller business, and we want to take everything that we can get in those over the industrial park. Even the small ones would make up a good portion. So what we're asking for is just consensus to see if that's something you would be okay with us bringing back to you at a future meeting for purchase, and to talk to Mr. Hughesby and let him know. But it would be 45,000 is what we would do, and Mr. Hughesby was okay with that.
It's kind of
An awful lot of property already.
Yeah, I think it's a unique spot. So I was
It is, yeah.
really involved with the original people who were interested, and kudos to Jacob for letting me know that property was kind of sitting out there. And that deal fell through, but I think it would be a turnaround that we would, it just makes sense. We would be able to site a business there.
What happens if we don't purchase it?
Mr. Hughesby holds it. He would try to market it to somebody. I think for him, finding a party that's willing to buy it is much tougher than us being able to have it. And for him holding property, it's a financial decision, right? And the longer you hold property, the longer you have to pay taxes. So I think for him, he's trying to get out of that situation. As to why I didn't go with the Furniture Mart, I don't know why none of that went. I think he's had conversations with them, but there hasn't been necessarily a whole ton of interest in them purchasing it to this point. So I think for the city, he's seeing it as, well, the city could market it, something we could obtain. We know we get inquiries for it. It is a smaller site, so it's not as big of a buy as some of the bigger ones or some of those. So.
Yeah, I don't, I know overall, our goal isn't to be a landholder, that's, but, buying it well under the appraised, was presented to us, it's well under the appraised value. I wouldn't even totally handcuff us to having to sell it. I guess my opinion, it doesn't have to be sold right for 45. Yeah, we get it at a cheap deal, we sell it at a cheap, you get a quick turnaround. But if we sell it for 50 or 55, we got staff time in there too. So it's not like we're,
I think what we told Jim about, I think the concern for him, and he could hold it and it'd be a while, I think letting it go for well under market for him is something that he was willing to do for the city if it would help the city economically. And so that's kind of why we had said, if we do something like that, we don't want to just make money on it for Jim's sake, right? It's got to be a fair shake between Jim and us and whoever the end property buyer is.
One of the stipulations?
We didn't say it had to be, but we just told him that's kind of what our thought was on the staff side.
I mean, I would leave us a little room, I think. I mean, if we sell it for 50, I mean, we're covering our staff time and we're not.
And we could let him know that we may do that, but I just wanna be transparent with him too, I think that would be fair to let him know that's what the council is thinking.
Yeah, I think we should at least recover whatever it cost us.
Legally, are there any issues with us getting the land below the market value or so far below that?
No, typically it's the other way. If you're selling it and you're selling it for way less, then you get into business subsidy, right? You have to make decisions. Typically, it's if you're giving it to a business for 150,000 is I think the trigger on a lot of that stuff. So for a subsidy hearing, so really but it's not the other way. Purchasing is much different.
What is the subsidy value, kind of to continue on with Robin's question, what is the subsidy value? I mean, so let's say we buy it for 45 and we sell it for 45, does that mean that we go by the appraised value of 80 and so therefore it's for 45, so that'd be your 35?
Even if so you're saying if we bought it and we had an appraisal done and we're still buying it
Cheap.
right?
Yeah, is that considered a subsidy at that point?
But even then, even if it was considered a subsidy, it doesn't require a subsidy hearing. So the hearing statutorily is required at a certain trigger point, which I think I believe is 150,000.
But it's just something we would have to disclose, say in the resolution or something that.
Yeah, you could do that just to be transparent with it. And I think it's pretty manageably explained by we bought it for cheap, here was our intent behind it.
Do we have
But
anybody
legally-
out there selling lots, right? I mean, that's the only lot out there, right?
Small, yeah, and then between that and then the other vacant ones we have the one on the corner of Liberty Lane and 10, but that's kind of we won't say prime, but it is kind of prime on the highway frontage. The other ones that we have would be once the plat is finalized and because the land exchange piece is with Potter. So we'll end up with that roughly 18 acres. We'll hold that, but there's not a whole lot out there as far as industrial that's
Crunching a
vacant.
private party here,
Not at all.
right? That's
No,
okay.
oh no, no, nope. And again, with this came after the mushroom business approached us. So Pleasant Valley is the one that was interested in it. But this all came after that.
Right. And to be honest, if they wouldn't have been interested, I don't know if we would have even.
I don't think we would have really said much about it. It sat there for a long time anyway, and so I think without Jim selling and doing the deal with Furniture Mart, I don't think a lot of this would have transpired if it was held.
For sure not.
So.
I think it's a great opportunity. We've had the mushroom business and a couple others that have inquired about lots and what we have, and you could situate a nice smaller business there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil?
I just want to make a comment, make sure everybody's aware. I'm very familiar with the property because I built that distribution center. But that holds a retainage pond for all the discharge water that comes from that distribution center and that full site. So it inflows there. There's an outflow that goes into the city storm system that if that gets too high, but on that piece of property that is in question, all of that water is going to come in there. I don't think it ever
How
gets
does
full.
that work then if that's one private party dumping to another?
That's what's very interesting. That's why when I was in my previous role, I said, why aren't we selling? We sold that. I can't remember. It was a company out of North Dakota that bought that. So I don't know how it worked with Furniture Mart buying it because the Hughesby family, Becker Furniture, didn't own that at the time Furniture Mart bought Becker Furniture World out. But they've always retained that piece of property. That used to be, I think it was 5 parcels, and we replatted everything and worked with Quality Welding and anyhow. But all of that water, I think there's a 30-inch storm that goes through that whole property that feeds into this corner lot. And like I said, there's an outfall that goes into the city storm, so if that overflows, it goes into Potter, and then Potter's goes into the Country Lumber.
Correct.
So just so we're there. So I just want to make sure it's kind of wonky if you're buying this thing. Do we have to change this flow at all? Obviously, at Furniture World, it's like, well,
Was there an
staying
easement
silent.
for that flow?
So there's in the original, so the city had the right of refusal, if you recall, we had the first right of refusal on that property. That a lot had to do with the stormwater pond and the expansion that was all part of this original purchase agreement. So there was originally supposed to be the expansion piece that Phil touched on. The outfall goes into this. Pleasant Valley was well aware of the outfall and that it was a private stormwater that was feeding into this. There was something in the agreement, and I can't recall the exact language, but there was something in the purchase agreement or the DA that talked about if at any time in the future the city wanted to tell Furniture Mart that they had to put stormwater into the city system, that they could. But I don't think that's we've talked about that. It's not something we necessarily want, but it is something that's on the lot that would be disclosed to anybody who's buying the property, that there is the stormwater pond. We did talk, I think, a little bit with Randy on that, and I think, if I recall right, I think it can accommodate some of the stormwater, Austin. Yeah. So,
What's what percentage of the property is involved in this stormwater?
oh, it's probably, I would say it's probably a third. But you can still fit, and we know this because of Pleasant Valley, you can still fit a driveway, you can still fit probably I think theirs was 5,000 square feet with room to expand with parking, so for a business,
Worth $80,000 or whatever.
it's still worth, I mean, the land value is the land. If you're taking the stormwater out, you still have to have that anyway, so whoever would be developing a site that's 1.41 acres would still have to do stormwater of some sort. So it's not as if
Would
you're,
it be as big as what it is?
not necessarily, but they would still have to do some of it.
Charge them per gallon or something.
You still want the door to plug the,
Yep, yes, don't play the outfall.
And then from a city standpoint, we only maintain, inadvertently, they were mowing the whole basin, and it's like, we don't wanna maintain that. We'll maintain our outfall. It's just on the high side, and everything else, it's private property. We're not gonna go in there and maintain that. So again, just wanted to bring it up. Jacob and I have talked about it. I just make sure that everybody's full disclosure on this thing, where we're going with it, so.
Thanks, Phil. And I think like I say, in any sort of agreement or purchase, we would make sure that they're aware of all those stipulations and that it ties out with the original PA and kind of the stipulations that are in there.
The property was appraised at 95,000 or whatever.
So we didn't appraise that property. We're going off the appraisal that's just down the road. So that we're per square foot, and which is very recent, which I think is reasonable. It's a comp that's really close. It's very similar. So getting a second appraisal, I don't believe is necessarily.
No, I'm not saying.
But but it's about $1.50
What I'm
short.
getting at was that this stormwater thing's got me a little concerned, that's all.
Sure.
Is the value still there even with that stormwater?
I would believe at 45 grand.
No, I'm talking about but you're tagging on as a.
Right, but what I'm saying is for that price, I believe the lot is still worth that to
Still a
somebody.
good deal.
It's still a good deal is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
I believe so.
Right, and for the potential people that were looking at it, they thought, wow, this is
Yep.
an amazing deal. It had nothing to do with the land, why they didn't go there. It had to do with building,
It was cost.
cost of the building.
We worked with them pretty extensively on a lot of different scenarios.
Building costs are still high.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, thanks, Phil, for touching on that. I appreciate that.
I'm good with it.
So we'll bring it back at the next council meeting for final decision. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, Councilmember Hendrickson would like to talk about the Coalition of Utility Cities legislative priorities.
Yes. So this is kind of a bigger discussion. If you recall, I just kind of dropped the seed for everybody a few weeks ago about potentially talking about nuclear, where our opinions are on that. So that stemmed out of this discussion here. So kind of a smaller, call it a subgroup of the, so we've been a member of the Coalition of Utility Cities for many years. So, you know, basically as a lobbying group to, you know, Excel has a very active lobby presence down in St. Paul. And so this was formed as a, you know, by other cities that have that, and to counter that, if you want to say. So this coming year is looking at what the kind of the legislative priorities are. The transition aid was a big one. That was one that through many iterations that the coalition was involved in. That's now in place, although as you can see in item number 1 there, we do, still need some tweaks on it, as our finance department will tell you there. But so kind of like, what are the next steps to this? And so in a meeting in, I think it was in the end of August, we kind of laid out some of the members. We're a really active member. Some members are not really active in this coalition. We are very active, and Monticello is very active. Red Wing's very active. Cohasset, some of the cities up north are pretty active, and so kind of looking at what are the priorities that we would like to see this coalition that we pay money to be in. What do we want to see them pursue? So what are the most important things to us in terms of energy policy at the state? And so that was where the nuclear came up, and so we can talk about that too. So maybe just kind of some of these, if we look at these, some of these are maybe more or less important to us. But the first one, I know, finance folks, you will that would be any of the tweaks that we see from the transition aid, the current iteration of it. There are some definite things they did not consider, situations we've encountered that we're gonna lose that again next year. So that's not forever, but I mean, as far as the 1 unit, that's gonna fall off. So I don't think that was the original author's intent, but it happened. So that's there's some things there as far as is that something we would see as a priority? I don't think I think that's a no-brainer that we would that would be a priority for us to see that cleaned up. So when you think of the utility cities, so Monticello and Red Wing being members of this coalition, when, there's been times when they talked about closing, Monticello and Red Wing especially, they had talked about closing that. And so all of these cities were just like us. They were going, oh, we might see our, primary taxpayer close here in the next 10 years. Of course, Monticello and Red Wing, both of those licenses have now been extended, so they're at different points than we are. So this is something that they're not really gonna look at as much, because it's not gonna affect them. As a coalition, they're willing to go along with it, but if this is something we wanna see get corrected, because it affects us front and center, we're gonna have to be the drivers on this. So that's why number 1 is there, and it's primarily because of us and how this has affected us. So so then the second one would be the community energy transition grant. So Bruce Messel mentioned this a little bit, the CET grants. And it's basically a newer.
Here's some info about
ChatGPT will tell us. This I know we did some work on the 2510 overpass. I believe that was CET grant. I think there was something in the industrial park too, where we did some CET grant. I will say personally, I mean, that's great that we've been a recipient of this. This program has always kind of bugged me a little bit, just because it's when you look at the staff, this program as a whole, when you look at the staffing of it, I mean, there's literally, this program was set up to manage a grant. There are full-time, year-round state employees, plural, set up to manage this grant. We had a meeting with them several months ago where they were looking for, because the funds for the grant got taken away. The grant's still there, but the funding was essentially gone. So they're like, we literally have 2 employees sitting around, what can we have them do? And that was kind of the gist of this meeting. So it sounds like at some point they do have some power to maybe partition them into different areas of deed, but I don't know. To me, this has come up every year where they're like, they want somebody to go testify to this, and I'm always just like, don't pick me, I'm not going, because I'm not the right guy for this. As a coalition, it's something they've it's like, well, if they're gonna put money in there, you might as well, okay, great, you know, but this one's always been really hard for me to stand up and say, please do it, this is vital for Becker. No, it's not. So I guess, that's my opinion on that, so, we can weigh in on whatever ones we, would feel they like to go forward, but this is just one, even having been a recipient, I've always had a very hard time justifying and looking anybody in the eye in the straight face and saying this is a good use of taxpayer dollars. So, the third one there, the carbon free, again, one that maybe doesn't affect us as much because it's biomass. There's certain things that qualify as carbon free, certain types. So biomass being the one here. But like for instance, hydro. Hydro does not count as carbon free energy in the state because of the other collateral damage that it does, and that it makes the backwater and that. So it does on the federal level, not on the state level. So I know we don't have any dams that actually generate we have dams on here, but not ones that generate a ton of electricity like they do up in Manitoba, where we purchase electricity from. But biomass being the main one, again, I don't know, that's one that we have to champion. It's not really, we don't have a biomass plant here. So then the nuclear one. So, this one, I think, which, the county did, recently, Greg alluded, or, Bruce alluded to it. The county did, at their, board meeting in October there, they did pass a resolution, saying they're in support of it, and I know they're doing a lot of, gathering of a lot of the outstate counties to really, really build a coalition here, and it's one that, I think I had mentioned it before, it's been tried for years. It now seems like it has probably more momentum. I think I mentioned Leuna, who is one of the unions, one of the main unions of folks that work out at the power plant. If you recall, when they brought the administrative hearing here a couple years ago, Leuna was there. They were wearing their orange shirts. They were there in force. In that wheelhouse, the pretty loud voice. They are leading one of the charge here for taking a new look at nuclear, of course, because where would those workers come from? They'd be Leona members likely. So that's their interest in it. Obviously, they have folks, the lessening presence out at Sherco, so they would like to see more folks join the union and have other union jobs. So that's their stated interest in it. They have a meeting next Tuesday, which I was very much looking forward to attending. However, I am gonna be down in the land of barbecue and gun smoke and freedom running through my nostrils. So, otherwise known as state of Texas. So I'm gonna be out of state next week, so I will not be able to attend. Representative Mecklin does have 2 tickets. One's for him and one is for, was gonna be for me, but I am no longer able to attend. It is at Leuna's headquarters, which is in downtown Minneapolis. Next Tuesday, the 28th, 1 o'clock to 3:30 is the actual program. 3:30 to 5 is a socialing event. So, besides the discussion, that is an opportunity that is there for, one of us to, attend that as well. But that was the catalyst for the discussion I kind of planted, the seed I kind of planted a couple weeks ago about, talking about, is this, this lifting of right now, there's a ban on nuclear in the state as far as it can't even be discussed. You can't be considered a part of any plan. There can be no new nuclear. There is, of any size. So, Bruce had mentioned nuclear subs have been around since, the 60s or 70s. I mean, that we've been doing active nuclear subs. So the technology of building a small nuclear reactor at a small scale is not new. But we cannot consider nuclear at any scale, due to a moratorium in Minnesota. Other states can, we cannot. So, I guess what would be our interest in, joining that, knowing that potentially one of those could be sited here in Becker as a replacement because you have the access to the grid there.
Even if it's a small scale, they'd be under the same regulations as what Monticello is, wouldn't they?
And they'd also be federal, cause you would have FERC, you'd have, federal nuclear would be
Yeah.
under that as well, so.
That would require them to maintain that acreage that they acquired. So they wouldn't be able to sell property for industry anymore. If they did that, I wouldn't think, would they?
So the land they're selling right now is, which you old school guys will know this. So once upon a time, Sherco was potentially gonna be 9 units. There's plans for
Initially,
9 units.
Plans for 9 units.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so if it ever went to 9 or anywhere close to 9, Excel had started buying that extra property just in case, because they have a buffer that they have to have, and then there's a
That's what
buffer
I'm getting
that could-
at.
So that's what they're selling, is just that
But isn't the
extra.
buffer area for nuclear larger than what?
Right now, I'm trying to think here, the footprint of both Sherco, and I can't say for sure, but I'll say what I do know. The footprint for both Sherco and Monticello is 7,000. Square, acres? Yeah, acres.
7,000 acres, yeah.
4,500 of which is Sherco. So with Monticello, which is I don't know if it's by size or I don't know what
Well,
dictates.
Sherco is bigger than Monticello.
In terms of megawatts, yes, but, in terms of the, so if we say 7,000 between the two, 4,500 is Sherco, that'd be, 2,500 would be Monticello then. Using that, if those numbers
Now,
are.
they still have that 4,500 buffer that is required, or is that just the footprint of it?
That's the footprint. So I guess,
So are you asking if we're supporting the nuclear moratorium lift or?
yes.
That's what I was getting at, is debating if I am or not.
I'll just speak, I do for the simple, I mean, it's one of the most highly regulated things at the federal level.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, just if we can support the lifting of the moratorium, doesn't mean we have to support the plant being built here.
correct, I mean, if we can't even discuss it, I don't think there's enough sunshine or wind to do the carbon free.
Minnesota.
I mean, that's my concern, so I just don't think it's a reality without discussing that. And if there's things small enough that a semi-trailer can be backed in next to a data center and plug in, I don't understand how you couldn't support that.
Microsoft, and I believe it's either New Jersey or New York, it's on the East Coast. So when we talk about our data centers and we got into the thing with the, diesel generators being the backups, one of the plants, one of the data centers they wanna do on the East Coast, they're actually going to build their own micronuclear reactors right on property. And one of the big issues, of course, as I'm sure as you guys hear it when we talk to people, is they say, okay, great, you're gonna build this great big 1,000 megawatt, electricity sucker out there, and what's that, combine that with closing the plants, what's that gonna do to the grid? Well, if you're making your own electricity, nothing. I mean, that's, if the nuclear moratorium were lifted, they could build their own and even sell back to the grid if they ever had an overage. I mean, it could, instead of being a draw, it would be like a little mini power plant, but.
Well, I think the moratorium just lets the PUC keep punting down the road. They don't wanna make a difficult decision. They don't even wanna have a discussion. That's no way to ever make a decision. if you're gonna sit down and have a discussion, but say, well, but this topic's off limits, that's not a discussion, so.
The issue would come up, I mean, if it were to come down, and, one of the biggest things when you hear Monticello talk about is storage, nuclear storage. There is no place for the rods to, so when they pull the nuclear rods out that do that, they are stored on site right now. Going back to the 1970s, there was supposed to be a place in Nevada called Yucca Mountain.
Yep,
and they were
they
supposed
never
to
did
bury them
finish
all
that.
in there. Well, they've never even legally agreed to it. They are trying to revive that in a place called Andrews, Texas, which I've actually been to, but they are trying to go there instead because of the gridlock in Yucca Mountain. So as a long-term potential storage, until they ever solve that problem, the rods are stored on site. And that's, and, if you ever want to talk about maybe a phase two is, you go to other countries, France, for instance, they're allowed to take those rods, recycle them and reuse them. We have a federal law that actually says we can't do that here. So we can, even though these things are not at 100%, they're not at 0. And they can be still reused in other countries do use it. It's almost old technology, but we don't allow it, so therefore we just have to let them sit there. So
Yeah,
that's something you look at maybe down the road too.
My brother-in-law was with the Monticello plant. And the problem with it is the cost of doing it versus what they get out of it is why they're really not that interested in doing it. But it works great for making weapons.
As you might guess, I'm very much in favor of, even if we talk about just lifting the moratorium, and that's a good point, that, it doesn't, there could be a difference between lifting the moratorium versus citing a plant in Becker. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a different discussion.
I would have no problem lifting the moratorium because it's probably the best source of power that we have available to us. Certainly beats solar panels, I'll tell you that.
Robin, you've been pretty quiet.
No, I'm supportive of lifting the moratorium. I'm not even opposed to looking at something being here at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to something being here. I'd want to see the safety factors and all that.
For sure.
But, they can always build one someplace else in Minnesota,
So what's next steps, Rick? Are you looking for us to sign an agreement with the county or piggyback or?
The next steps are really up to us. So this thing by the county board there, I mean, that's more of a statement that they support it. So we could do a resolution, we could do, kind of depends on how much we want to contribute, I guess. That's, if we want to, see what the county does come up with, when it's at the county level, I mean, that's gonna be other counties where they're gonna be doing that effort there. I mean, it is something we could just, pass a resolution and then just wait and see and play, see what opportunities come about. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a much bigger fight than the city of Becker, so, I mean, how much Becker funds do, is it really, I don't know that a ton of our money really belongs in that fight, but.
No, but our money's already involved as members of the coalition.
Right.
So I'm not opposed to it.
I think a resolution probably would be at a minimum.
So it says here Sherburne County joined the Minnesota Nuclear Energy Alliance. So that's.
And that's another, I don't know, those are usually dues paying alliances that.
Right.
We could check, we can verify it, but usually though there's dues associated with that, and then they hire lobbyists is what they do with those dues usually, so.
So it sounds like we have consensus for staff to bring us something that would allow us to voice our approval along the lines of lifting the nuclear moratorium.
Yep.
Is that open-ended enough for,
Well, the city of Becker supports Sherburne County.
Right. So, right.
Phil's gonna be running the playback
He
tomorrow on the
good.
tape.
All right, well, thank you, Rick.
Recycling.
Roundtable, anybody have anything else? All right. Want to adjourn?
Please.
All right.
We'll adjourn meeting number 2 of 3.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're on to
yes.
our next, so, please,
All right, we're done at 6:49.
thank you.
Do you have any interesting going to Leona next Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, maybe. Can you tell me?
I can forward you an email.
Okay.
So that's probably what Shane was calling you for, cause he literally just hung up the phone to me.
Yeah.
So that's probably literally what he, cause I told him I couldn't go now, so.
There's no way I can answer this because I've never had a conversation with Shane Mecklin that's been under 5
Yeah,
minutes.
I was gonna say you'd still be on the phone probably,
So next Tuesday, we,
but I'll forward you, if he hasn't forwarded to you already, I will forward you.
oh, so the 28th is that, what time did you say?
1:30 to 3 is the actual meeting, and then 3, let's see.
Hey Jacob, do you have one quick second? I promise it'll be short.
He did say a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what time's that transition point gonna be done? Tuesday?